have to get addressed right away. I think the first thing that we need to talk about is how do we get real money into the hands of everyday working Americans. We have a lot of work to do on the minimum wage, and we're sort of worlds apart on that. I think one of the things we need to do is talk about how we sort of mitigate the pain for small businesses to get them on board with the minimum wage increase. It's something that needs to happen. But there are so many people who make more than the minimum wage, but not enough to really raise a family. And the question is, how do we get money in their hands too? I have some really exciting ideas about how to incentivize larger businesses to give some of their profits back to the employees. Not tax raises, but incentives that would actually reduce their tax burden if they give more money to their employees. I think a lot of companies would be really interested in that because they'd much rather give their money to the employees than to Uncle Sam. I think that we are wasting a tremendous amount of tax dollars in criminalizing marijuana and putting people in jail for that. Because every time we put someone in jail, we've got to keep in mind we house them, we feed them, we take care of their medical costs, their dental care, not to mention the money we spend on the judges and the lawyers, the prosecutors and defenders that get them in jail in the first place. Drug-related offenses for marijuana use are just wasting our tax dollars. Now, that's something we can talk about in Washington, but quite frankly, our criminal laws are state by state. They are not nationally driven. But we can start the right kind of conversation in Washington to stop wasting so much taxpayer dollars on these minor violations that are plugging up our jail. Conflict between the African American community and the law enforcement community. In my view, law enforcement is a critical role in our society, and the vast majority of law enforcement officers are professionals, and they are very service-oriented. They're incredibly brave. They do a very tough job. But there is an element that takes their authority too far and uses prejudices and biases and stereotypes in the way that they police. This has created an erosion of trust between law enforcement and the African American community in particular, but in poor communities generally. We need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this honestly and openly, not from a place of accusation, but from a place of dealing with the real and figuring out how do we address this. We need to have a national discussion about the use of body cameras, but we also need to have a discussion about how we hold police departments accountable to the communities that they actually serve. There's just too much opaqueness. There's just too big of a barrier between the way that police officers police themselves and their answerability to the community. Well, I was raised in the Middle East when I was a child, so I knew from an organic place the difference between Sunni and Shia, Berber, Bedouin. I understand these things. But I also studied the Middle East when I was in college, and I also lived in the Middle East as a naval officer. I was living in the Persian Gulf, that area that is so volatile right now. I understand some of the challenges that we face, especially when we talk about this Iran nuclear deal. I understand that there is a significant concern about allowing Iran to get more money, more capital to fund these Shia militias across the Middle East. The problem that we have right now is that the only way we can interface with Iran is through diplomatic discourse. If we do not get them into the world community, they're going to go rogue, and they're going to continue funding Shia militias, and oh, by the way, they're going to build a nuclear weapon. It's something that we absolutely cannot allow them to do. I understand the criticisms of that deal, which say, hey, it's just kicking the can down the road. They can build one in 10 or 15 years. But the reality is we are in a better situation 10 or 15 years to deal with that than to try to stop them from doing it now, because we cannot careen towards more war in that very already unstable part of the world.
So how do we look you up, your website and your amazing texting system?
You can look me up at pamkeith.com. That's my webpage address. It's a great web page. There's lots of content. You're going to get to know me very well, and I tried to make it very interactive and fun. And you can try me on my new text-based platform. Just call *PK 2016 and you will instantly be part of my campaign. You will get text messages that update you on what I'm doing, and it's a great way to stay connected. No more bombardment with emails. No more bombardment with fundraising calls. This is a quick way to interface with the campaign that is a system that you use all the time and you're really comfortable with.